Hello, Jaguar students. It is your friendly neighborhood math teacher, Mr. Allred, and we're going to start with Unit 10. Unit 10 is about statistics. This is your first entry in your table of contents for Unit 10. We're going to talk about some different things with statistics and data, kind of a review of sixth grade, some things you should remember from sixth grade. Okay, you should be able to explain how to analyze data using these different measures of center by the end of today's lesson. Okay, that's today's learning goal. I think it's pretty important. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Here's some essential vocabulary, some things that you will need to know in order to be successful in this unit. Okay, it's gonna be a pretty short unit. It will take about a week for us to finish it. We'll probably be testing by the end of this week, maybe Friday. If it takes a little bit longer than expected, maybe Monday, but probably on Friday. We'll be testing this unit, okay? When I talk about statistics, I'm talking about polling people and asking questions to people and receiving the data. Much like when you fill out a Google form for me and it lets you see those pie charts that show you how people answer different questions. Those are statistical questions that might come up in a survey, okay? A politician might use a survey to see if they're popular or not. You might use a survey for lots of different things, and we're going to talk about that here in this unit. Whenever you ask a question, you get results, some answers from that question, and you get a set of data. When you ask that question, you want it to be a question that people will give lots of different answers to, a lot of variety. Because if you ask a question like, I don't know, how many hands do you have? Most people probably say 2, because most people have 2 hands. But if you ask a question like, what is your favorite book? You might get lots of different answers. If you ask a question like, what's your favorite subject in school? You might get lots of different answers, all the encore classes, all the core classes, all those things. If you ask what people made on their last test, you'll definitely get lots of different answers for that one. So you want to make sure that you ask a question that people will give lots of different answers to, okay? When you're asking that question, you're going to ask a particular population. That's a group of people with similar characteristics. Okay, maybe you're just asking 7th graders, that's your population. Maybe you're asking AL standback students, that would be your population. Or you're asking residents of North Carolina, that could be your population. But it could be any group of people with similar characteristics. Maybe you're just asking, 6th grade girls, and that's your population. Okay, it kind of depends on the question and what makes sense. Okay, when you ask that question, not everyone's going to answer, so you're going to get a sample. Okay, that's going to be a smaller part of the population, just a smaller part of it, because not everyone's going to answer your question, even if you send it to everybody. You can ask any teacher. Not everyone always answers their surveys. Okay, when you ask that question and you're getting that sample, you want to try to get a reasonable sample. The good rule here is that the more people actually answer your question, the better your results are going to be, the more varied they're going to be. If you're trying to survey 200 people and only 10 people answer, you're not going to have very good data. But if 100 people answer, that's going to be a pretty solid amount of data. There's 2 types of data. I know I'm going really fast. I apologize for that. There's categorical data. Categorical data has words for answers. We'll talk about that in a second. And numerical data is the other type of data that has numbers for answers when you ask the question. Okay, so here's 2 examples of what I mean. Okay, you might have numerical data. That would be a question like, how many pairs of shoes do you have? People aren't going to say fish to that question. They're going to say 1 or 4 or 17. That's going to be a good statistical question with lots of different answers. A categorical question might be, what is your favorite subject in school? People might say math or science or English, but they won't say 1 or 2. That wouldn't make any sense. Okay, so we're going to look here at this example about Plains Middle School, and I'm going to talk through it a little bit to try to help you understand all these different concepts. If Plains Middle School was considering the following locations for a 7th grade field trip, the Science Museum, the State Park, or the Ballet Company, the principal wants to survey a sample of students to find out which location 7th grade students would prefer the most. We're going to look at the following 3 different bullet points and figure out if those would be a good sample of people for him to ask. Okay, Ed Puzzle is going to ask you which one you think is the best. Please look at them. The truth is, there's definitely one of those that's better than the other 2. The first one, I don't know if that would be a good group of people to ask, because if you surveyed members of the science club, think about it. A lot of those people like the science club. They chose it on their list of clubs to choose from, so a lot of them would probably say Science Museum. They might not all say Science Museum, but those numbers would be skewed in a way that made you think that the whole 7th grade wanted to go to the science museum. If the principal surveyed every 10 student that walked into the middle school on a morning, that would be a pretty random survey. You get some people from the bus, some people from the car rider line, some 6th graders, 8th graders, 7th graders, guys and girls, and different races. Okay, you'd have a pretty random selection of people if you surveyed every 10th person that walked into school. That would be the best of those 3 options. Because if you surveyed a group of randomly selected 7th grade girls, I'm not trying to say anything about girls, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that, but a lot of girls would probably have a tendency to say ballet company, just because that's the way they might have been raised. Okay, so that probably wouldn't be the best group of people to ask either. The best group would be the most random, that gives you the most people, and it has all kinds of people from that population in it. Okay, how would you develop your sample if you had to choose? How would you do it? Answer that question on Edpuzzle, and then take what you type in Edpuzzle and write it there underneath number 2. There are different ways to organize data once you organize it. We'll talk about more of this when you come to my station, but you can organize it with a frequency table. You can use a line graph. You can use a bar graph. You can use a histogram, and you can even use a dot plot or a line plot. We'll talk about those if you ask me when you come to my station. Today, we're going to talk about some different ways to describe data. A data set is a set of numbers. You can organize it by its center, maybe the mean or the median. You can organize it by its spread. That might be its range, or what we call its IQR, which we'll talk about tomorrow. When you're trying to find the mean of a data set, I'm looking here at this next example. Mean is a big word for average. So when you're trying to find the average of a data set, you're going to add up all the values and then divide by the total number of values. We did this a long time ago, back when we had that social studies day for World War II, and we counted push-ups and pull-ups. We found our set average. I'm going to take those numbers and add them all together. When I did 2 plus 1 plus 8 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 plus 3 plus 4, I got 24. Okay, I counted up and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers. So I took 24 and divided by 8, and I got 3. That is the average of that data set, 3. I did an average problem for you. You can't say I didn't. When you're trying to find the median of a data set, the median is the middle number once you put the numbers in order, okay, putting them in order from least to greatest, and then you're going to find the middle number. There's 2 things that could happen. Example 1, if you have an odd number of values, here's what's going to happen. It's going to be really easy for you. So if you take that set of numbers and you write them in order, you get 3, 5, 9, 9, 12, 13, 17. All you need to do is you need to cross off the bookends, cross off 3 and 17, cross off 5 and 13, and just keep working towards the middle, 9 and 12. The middle number there is this 9. So the median of this data set is 9. If you have an even number of values, it's a little trickier. You're still going to line up the values in order from least to greatest, 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. But you're going to have an even number of values, so you're going to get 2 values in the middle, crossing off the bookends, working towards the middle. Okay, there's 2 values right here in the middle. When that happens, I need to find the average of those 2 numbers. So I'm going to do 2 plus 3 and get 5. And then I'm going to take 5 and divide it by 2, and I'm going to get 2.5 as the median for my data set, because I had to average those 2 numbers together to find the median of the data set. Okay, a couple other things that could happen is you're not trying to find the mode of a data set. The mode is the number that happens the most in a data set, the number that occurs the most often. In this case, okay, the mode of this data set, I see a lot of 34s, say 1, 2, 3 of them. I see 2 23s, but I saw 3 34s. 34 occurs the most. That makes it the mode of that data set. Edpuzzle is going to ask you how many modes. So how many modes are in the following data set? It's going to ask you about number 1 specifically. Tell you the number of modes in that data set. When you're trying to find the range of a data set, the range is the difference between the largest and smallest numbers, the biggest number minus the smallest number. In this case, looks like the biggest number in this data set is 21, and the smallest number in the data set is 5. So if I take those 2 numbers and subtract them, 21 minus 5 is 16. 16 is the range of that data set. Okay, an outlier, which is an extreme value in a data set, a number that's outlying by itself. The best way to do that is to put the values in order. I've done that for you. for this data set, 12, 27, 30, 31, 35, 35, 38, 41. And it looks to me like most of these numbers are kind of in the same boat, if you will. They're all kind of pretty similar numbers, 27 through 41. But there's one number that's kind of off by itself, and that's 12. It's kind of a lot smaller than all the other numbers. That's the outlier. Okay? This is the longest video I've given you in a long time, but you're going to try to find the mean, median, mode, and range for these sets of data for A and for B. Okay? Edpuzzle is going to ask you to find the mean for set A, and then it's going to ask you to find the range for set B. But you're going to fill out the rest of it too on your mini lesson. When you come to me, we'll do some more work. Thank you for your time. Thanks for paying attention. Okay. You can always go back and rewind or rewatch video segments if you have any questions. Okay. Have a great day. Thanks for paying attention.